Okay. One more time. Maps. I understand maps.
Good.
I understand that when I have a map and there's two small dots that are close to each other on the map, I can be pretty sure that in the real world, the spaces that represent those dots are also going to be pretty close together.
And that's topographic in this sense.
Good so far. But how does that tell us how it is that we tell the difference between what's new and what's old?
Well, in language, we also have this thing that similar utterances, similar constructions in language correspond to similar or related connected meanings.
Okay.
So, for example, we can see that at the word level. If we talk about words like happy, happier, happiness, happily, all these have something in common. Different words, different usages, something in common though.
Okay.
Even unhappy and unhappily, actually, if we do the psych testing in terms of ERP, in other words, brainwave response to unhappy, it's actually more connected to happy. And we can tell this by seeing how surprised people are when they get unhappy when happy was expected.
Okay.
They're not as surprised as if they got aardvark.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. They're related in a way.
They're related.
Okay.
Yep. So we have this connection in language that tells us about related forms correspond to related meanings. And we see that at the sentence level in a much more kind of clear way, where we can have sentences like John ate a sandwich, John saw a sandwich. And we can see that there's lots in common between those two sentences.
Yeah, there's only one word different.
One word different in the form, and in the meaning there's a lot in common as well.
That's true. Okay.
John's there, sandwich is there, just a different thing going on between them.
Just like with my map.
Just like with your map.
Okay.
Yep, so similar things, like being on the corner of the street and being on the other corner just down the street. They're not that far apart on the map. They're not that far apart in real life.
So if we have a situation where you say John saw a sandwich, and then later on another sentence comes up, John had a sandwich, then I know that those are related, and so I know that this isn't new.
There's a lot that's not new. Some things are new. What you know is new is the bit about eating versus seeing. That's the novelty.
Okay.
Yep. And so this kind of focuses our attention on the bits that are new in the semantics as well, on the basis of the forms. And we can, this is kind of useful for us. Sorry, I'm looking at my computer because I've been making notes because I want to get this clear. That's right. Take 512. And and I was thinking about what would be an example where we can show like how this topographic nature of language helps us like understand things we wouldn't otherwise understand, which is related to this question. And so we could say, let's presume we'd never ever seen a puzzled dog before.
A puzzled dog?
Exactly. We haven't looked at a dog and said, that dog looks puzzled.
Okay.
But if someone says, my dog looks puzzled, we can say, okay, my dog looks star. We can think of all the sentences that would fit that pattern. My dog looks something.
Yeah.
That we could interpret. We have experienced those sentences before and their interpretation. We understand what those are. And we go, okay, let's try and find the intersection between those ones. And somebody looks puzzled. Star looks puzzled. And we find the things that are similar to that and connect those up together. What's the maximum similarity we can find between like dogs doing things, looking particular ways, and particular beings looking puzzled. And then we find that kind of closeness of connection between those two. In other words, similarity. And that's like the similarity bonding that we get. This kind of compositionality, which is a special kind of topographic relationship.
I could triangulate those sentences on my semantic map.
Exactly.
My language map.
That's exactly what we're talking about.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so that's a way of like using our existing language constructions to get at stuff that's actually experientially new for us.
And even people who have played Semantle will know that there's a distance between certain words that are related and a much longer distance between words that aren't related. You want to guess the close ones.
You want to guess the close ones.
Yeah, okay.
And then when it's pulling this back to our newness, this allows us, because we've identified the sentences, the bits in the sentences as like, this bit stays the same in things that are semantically related.
Mm-hmm.
It lets us think about, okay, if they stay the same, we can just leave them out when we repeat stuff. Like, because we don't want to say the boring stuff repeated over and over and over again.
No, and that's why we might say a sentence like, I studied linguistics and my wife medicine.
Exactly.
I could have said studied medicine, but that's old and boring. I don't want to repeat that.
And actually, studying linguistics and studying medicine can be very different experiences. You probably didn't go and carve up dead bodies.
No, I didn't.
As part of your linguistics training.
No.
And this is something that I think what we're seeing there is that the semantics is actually different, but the way we would represent it is similar. It's similar enough and it's connected enough to, through this kind of topographic nature of language, to using the same word. And so we collapse it and we say, oh, that word will be repeated. We don't want to do that. We can elide that word. We can not say it and still be understood.
Okay. And that's really interesting because you would think that dropping a verb like study would be, we like to keep verbs. Verbs are kind of like the powerhouse of the sentence.
They are.
We would think of them as like really, really integral. And yet, you can drop it.
You can drop. And in fact, different languages, they like dropping them in different ways. And there's examples in Scottish Gaelic, because it's a verb-first language. There's ways where like you can use a part, you can use an auxiliary, and then you can have these things that aren't quite whole sentences that involve just enough of the bits to add the extra. Like, so you can do what we've just done with in terms of study, but you can leave out other parts of the sentence and just repeat the bits that are new.
So this topographic view of language helps us to know what's old and what's new, because if we've seen something old before, then it might not be exactly the same when it comes around again, but it'll be close enough that we'll know, yeah, that's old.
It's because our brains are super good at going from something that's near enough and then just using the context to push it into the right interpretation. So, for example, like get is an incredibly vague verb in English.
Get. Yeah.
But if I see you walking out of an auction house and I say to you, what did you get?
Mm-hmm.
You will tell me the answer to which would be the same as if I'd asked you, what did you have the winning bid for, Daniel? And it's just a compressed way that, because the context is pushing us through the ambiguity into that, it's providing the information that we're not expressing in a boring way in the actual linguistic construction. We can make up for the ambiguity and have a salient response that makes sense.
I feel good about that.
Good.
It's cold out here.
It is pretty chilly.
I'm glad we got that down.
Yay!
Let's go sit by the fire.
Let's sit by the fire. It's much better than there, I think.
We will now return you to the morning chat.
Enjoy the sunshine. Past people.